Fall fresh on us.
Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us.
One of my favorite images of Jesus, the Good Shepherd, is where he is holding a lamb close to his chest. I know you are all familiar with it. In that image, we are able to sense Jesus' love for the lamb, one of the least. We are also able to sense the lamb's comfort, resting its head on Jesus' chest. The lamb and Jesus both know each other. And they know each other's needs and how to care for them. I want us to extend this life-giving image of the Good Shepherd to the entire household of God, the entire sheepfold that includes every living thing in God's creation. The shepherd knows the sheep, and the sheep know the shepherd. Out of this mutual relational knowledge emerges the transformation of lives. In our greatest needs in our lives, the Good Shepherd lovingly lays on our hearts through people, angels, and all creation, even sheep, dogs, cats, and birds, to name a few. There are times in our lives, especially at what I want to call our life gate moments. Life gate moments. When the Good Shepherd sends a messenger to attend to us when we are disoriented or lost. At these times, the Good Shepherd sends one of his gate hands, one of his messengers, to orient us back to wholeness and fullness of life. The week prior to bringing Stephanie to the Royal Glasgow Infirmary's ER, we passed through a different set of gates, the gates of Aer Lingus, like sheep trusting that the Good Shepherd would meet us on the island of Iona. For over 3 years, we had planned a retreat with some 24 of our closest friends, clergy, and lay colleagues. We never made it to Iona. The Good Shepherd met us and is taking us on a different pilgrimage, one that we neither planned nor desired, and one that we continue to be on. And only the Good Shepherd knows our pilgrimage's itinerary. Tomorrow marks the 1-year anniversary of when Stephanie took ill in Glasgow, Scotland, when she was admitted to the Royal Glasgow Infirmary for what unexpectedly became a 6-week stay. From the point of our going to the ER with our friend, the Reverend Julia McCrae Goldsmith, who called the Uber, and her spouse John, who brought me a meal as we waited in the ER for news of Stephanie. To this day, we have never been left alone at any of our life gate moments. The Good Shepherd's love and care has always been with us through one of his cherished and trusted messengers. The Good Shepherd's messengers laid their hearts on our lives with the Good Shepherd's love. As the lamb lay on Jesus' heart, and Jesus held the lamb close. As soon as the news of Stephanie's illness became public, on the second night of Stephanie's admission. Friends from all over the world started to network on Facebook to make sure Stephanie, her mom, and me would not be alone at this life gate. Our Iona retreat friends that first week poured into the Royal Glasgow Infirmary. Julia and John, Mark and Bill, Colleen and Jim. As the weeks went by, more friends came to the Royal Glasgow Infirmary on their return from Iona as they headed back to the airport to their homes around the country. Within 24 hours, Reverend Kelvin Holsworth, the Dean of St. Mary's Cathedral in Glasgow, Scotland, came to Stephanie's room to offer pastoral care and eventually so much more. Kelvin, an Anglican priest, had been on sabbatical a few years earlier at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco and got to know some of our American clergy friends, including the Reverend Anne Fontaine. Then last May, Anne, learning the news about Stephanie on Facebook, wrote immediately to Kelvin and asked him to visit Stephanie. Kelvin led us to the Reverend Audrey O'Brien Stewart, a recent clergy transplant from Boston, who is now working in the Glasgow Cathedral. And she became a frequent visitor at Stephanie's bedside and even helped Stephanie prepare a birthday party for me on June 1 from Stephanie's bed. Brad Peterson, another friend of ours in San Francisco, led us to Barbara Quilty, a Presbyterian minister in Glasgow. Barbara also had been to America a few years back, and during the course of her holiday came down with a terrible bout of appendicitis. Brad took care of Barbara and helped her navigate the U.S. medical system and nursed her back to health. Barbara felt called by God to return the care she received from Brad at her life gate. She opened her home to me and to Iva, Stephanie's mom, so that we could leave our increasingly expensive Glasgow hotel, where we had been for 2 weeks. Each of these men and women, rooted in their own stories of the Good Shepherd, laid their hearts on our lives. Their stories have shaped our stories. We were all in the sheepfold. We knew each other through the Good Shepherd's love, not just Facebook. As soon as we arrived to Barbara's house in Glasgow, she introduced us to Angus, her black lab. And Barbara affectionately said, "Meet anxious Angus. You will rarely see him, as he is afraid of strangers." Within 30 minutes, when I was sitting on the sofa having a cup of English tea in Scotland, Angus crawled up on the couch next to me. Then he stretched his body forward. This is a huge dog. Stretched his body forward and laid his head on my chest. There he rested for 30 minutes. Anxious Angus immediately recognized and knew Anxious Joe, his king. Like all the other messengers we have met, Angus gave his love and care to me because he knew his own journey of anxieties, so he was quick to recognize mine. Every night, once I was in bed, without exception, Angus came to my bedroom and placed his head on my mattress, letting me pet him. Often, as he would be ready to walk away, he would give a very deep sigh. I had a profound sense that Angus knew my pain. Just before Easter, last month, Stephanie took ill and had to be readmitted to the California Pacific Medical Center in San Francisco, where she was surrounded by the love and care of God's medical and nursing messengers. While Stephanie was in the hospital, our friends Mark and Sheila offered me a room in their San Francisco home. Their home is just minutes from the hospital. They have a dog named Pixar. See where this is going? No one wanted Pixar. Pixar was an abandoned dog that came to rescue, who had been severely abused. But Mark and Sheila had a home. And when I got to their home, they introduced me to Pixar. I was very uneasy because Pixar, like anxious Angus, had a reputation of being fearful of strangers, but wasn't quite as reticent as anxious Angus, who would just sit in the corner and ignore you. Pixar was a little bit more aggressive. In our past visits to Mark and Sheila's home, I recall hearing Pixar barking and pounding on the floor above because he heard strangers in the house. I was the stranger. On that evening I visited Mark and Sheila's home, Pixar came running into the living room, excitedly jumped on me several times, and then eventually lay down on the couch next to Mark. I was on the couch in the living room, and we were well into the conversations of the evening, catching up on the day. Pixar crossed the room, gently approached where I was sitting, and like anxious Angus, moved his body forward and laid his head on my chest. I felt deeply cared for by Pixar. I needed his love, the Good Shepherd's love, and I felt his presence that night. Mark and Sheila were stunned. Pixar had never done this before with any other stranger. Through Pixar's own anxiety, he recognized my anxiety and gave me his heart. I went back for one more night, and the same thing happened again. Julia, John, Mark, Bill, Colleen, Jim, Kelvin, Brad, Anne, Barbara, Audrey, Mark, Sheila, Anxious Angus, and Pixar are all part of the Good Shepherd's sheepfold. They know their king, and their king know them. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, regularly commissions and sends his most trusted messengers to our life gates. Sometimes the Good Shepherd sends angels, sometimes people, sometimes even anxious dogs, bearing God's love to safely bring people like you and me through our life gates. In the sheepfold, sometimes we receive messengers, and sometimes we're sent as messengers. To receive the messenger with openness, we are full of gratitude. To be sent, we must be alert and available for the opportunities to respond to the Good Shepherd's call. When are those times when one of God's messengers has met you at one of your life gates? I want you to pray about that this week and celebrate the answers you're given. Even when we are not the messengers, we may be more like Reverend Anne, who introduced us to Reverend Kelvin, or like Brad, who introduced us to Barbara to stay in her Glasgow home. In one way or another, we are each called to lay on one another's hearts. When we follow the Good Shepherd's love for the Lamb, we transform lives at every life gate. I know this to be true because now, for a year, on a daily basis, God's messengers, people, anxious dogs, and angels, and the people of St. Francis have nurtured Stephanie and Ivan. I pray that the Good Shepherd or one of his messengers may lay his heart on your heart too. I pray that you will be so overtaken by the Good Shepherd's love that you will share that love with others, as you already do. But let that love deepen and go out into the pond with many ripples. And in so doing together, you and me will transform our world that yearns to be loved and cared for at life's gates when one of God's beloved this day is disoriented and lost. God bless you.
Amen.